July is a blast for people. But for our pets, it can actually become a really dangerous time of year. From the loud fireworks to the picnic foods, even a fun celebration can quickly turn into a stressful and dangerous event for our furry friends. So joining us now is Dr. Stephanie Howell. She's an emergency veterinarian and the medical director at VEG ER for Pets to share what every pet parent should know before the holiday weekend. Dr. Howell, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So now we hear every year that more and more pets go missing around the 4th of July. What about this holiday makes it a stressful time for animals?
You know, it's interesting. It's not something everybody thinks about, but the 4th of July involves a lot of get-togethers. People are traveling, going to new places. There's fireworks, so there are loud noises. Those can be stressful for our pets. And so all of those combinations together usually do lead to more pets going missing around this time, especially if they're not secured or if we don't have their information registered or their information displayed on them. It actually does lead to a rise in missing pets, unfortunately. So it is something to look out for this holiday.
What do you think are some of the things that pet parents can start doing now to prepare for the fireworks?
I think the biggest thing for our pets is that this holiday can be very stressful to them. They don't understand what the celebrations are about that we're doing. And so the biggest thing that I would say now, especially ahead of the 4th of July weekend, is if you haven't already, meet with your primary veterinarian and talk about ways that we can mitigate stress for our pets. One of those ways is potentially talking about sedative medications to help manage the stress of those types of days, but you've got to make sure that's safe for them medically, and so it's good to talk to your primary vet in advance. But the other things I would definitely advise doing are making sure you have a secure location for your pets. They really don't need to participate in firework activities. Those can be unsafe for them. So having them somewhere secured in your home to where they can't escape is ideal. Make a quiet space for them, set up some white noise, some music, some birds on the TV for your kitty cats if that's what you have, or your dogs. Make sure they feel safe and secure. The other thing I would do too is just in case of emergency, if something does happen, your pet gets out, make sure you have all of their information registered. So is their microchip registered to you, and is that current? Sometimes you have to subscribe to those services. Do they have a collar on with clear identification if they did somehow go missing so that somebody can find them? And the last thing I would advise too is you never know what's going to happen. There's always a potential for an emergency to come up. That's kind of the nature of them. They happen unexpectedly. Knowing your closest ER is really crucial. I work for VEG ER for Pets. We're at the Brookhaven location, but there's actually 4 locations across Georgia. There's one in Alpharetta, Marietta, and Snellville. And we're open 24/7, including during this holiday. So knowing that as an option is also something I'd recommend.
Okay, thank you so much for the tips. Now let's talk about food, because I don't know about everybody out there streaming, but when it comes to the holidays, my family goes crazy on the grill. But I understand that sometimes it's those cookout foods, that barbecue, that can be really detrimental for our pets. What are some of the most dangerous things?
That's a great question. The biggest potential for ingestion of things we shouldn't around the holidays are typically either things that contain bones, so like your rib bones, your chicken bones, barbecue foods that have bone in. If a dog were to ingest that, that can become obstructed or even damage their intestinal tissue. Other foods that we think about, corn cobs are actually notorious for getting stuck in dogs' intestines around the holidays. It's something that we typically will eat at our barbecue, your corn on the cob, and so that can get stuck. From an obstruction standpoint, definitely have to worry about those things. Sometimes if we're putting like a kebab on the grill, it's got a skewer in it. If the dog eats that, that can definitely happen. Some dogs will swallow everything whole, and so it all just goes down at once. The other thing to watch for too is just eating foods that are unusual to their diet. So foods that contain a lot of fat and things that dogs aren't used to digesting. So if your dog licked the grease out of the grill, or if they got some hamburger meat or something they're not adjusted to, they can definitely get GI upset as well. So it can cause vomiting, diarrhea, which can lead to dehydration. Some dogs can get things like pancreatitis, which can happen from eating a fatty meal they're not used to. And so those are kind of the big things that really, at the end of the day, what we need to remember is a lot of the people foods are not usually really good for our dogs. They don't need to participate in eating the same things that we're eating too. There's even some ingredients that can be toxic to dogs. Garlic and onion powder, for example, if we're using that on our foods, can be dangerous to them. So those are all things to think about.
I wouldn't have thought about the seasoning there, so I'm glad that you brought that up. And I mean, we're not just talking about you accidentally leave your plate out. Anything can happen. It could be that, like, you're in a park and you have a non-traditional trash bag instead of a trash bin. Your dog could get into that. And so, I do want to recognize that things happen. So when they do, let's say your dog does eat something that they're not supposed to, what do we do next?
That's a great question because, we see actually a variety of 4th of July related emergencies, I would say. And it isn't just getting into things that they shouldn't get into. There's also, people will get together and dogs who are unfamiliar with each other might interact. We do see sometimes dog fight injuries around the holidays because dogs that don't know each other are together. It's really hot outside, and so we see emergencies like heat strokes, which can happen too in our pets during the summer times. So if something does happen, the best thing you can first do is talk to an emergency hospital and get your dog over to one quickly. VEG ER for pets will take any call from someone calling, trying to figure out if they have an emergency going on with their dog. We will hand the phone to a doctor. And the reason we do that is because you want to know in that moment, is this an emergency? Is this something I need to come in for right now? Can I get in quickly? Where are you located? Are you seeing a bunch of emergencies right now? Can I get triage right away? Which at VEG we do. A doctor will see you right away when you come in. We've got an open concept. So this is an example of this behind me, that when you walk in, you can see everything that's going on with your pet. We want to keep you and your pet together. And so a great way to start that is by talking to a doctor. Do I need to come in? Is this an emergency? And we can help you figure that out.
One of the things you listed early in that response that you just gave me was about the heat. We don't think about the fact that, like, while it's hot outside and we can experience heat stroke as humans, so can our pets. What should you be looking for in terms of, like, symptoms when it comes to heat stroke?
Yeah, this is a really big one, especially where we live, and lately in the last week or so when it's been really hot. Heat stroke is a major concern for our pets, and it can happen really quickly. What it is essentially is stress on the body that can lead to some really serious life-threatening consequences, even emergent in that moment. It can happen very quickly. The signs of heat stroke are usually something acute, so you're going to see it quickly. Your dog may collapse. They may start by panting really hard, looking like they're struggling to breathe. They may even collapse. You might see some vomiting or diarrhea precede something like that. So any unusual signs like that that are associated with we've been outside, or they were outside a while ago, they came inside, but they just couldn't seem to cool down or stop panting, and then I saw some other concerning things, would definitely clue me in to say, are we worried about a heat stroke in dogs? The sooner you respond and the sooner you get treatment for your pet, the better the outcome. So recognizing the signs of that are really important.
Yeah, I mean, so when I think about it, some of the symptoms that you just named sound really scary, especially when we're talking about the fact that you may consider your fur baby to be family. And so it's really important that you know the signs so that when it does happen, instead of freaking out, you can quickly pivot into whatever your emergency plan is. And speaking of emergencies, as we mentioned, VEG ER is a 24/7 emergency veterinarian and clinic, also an emergency room for your pets. Just out of curiosity, what are the ways that your team is prepping right now for the holiday? Because we're only about a week away.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, July 4th and the weekend is actually sometimes one of the busiest weekends we have in the emergency room because there are so many potentials for things to happen. So ways we're preparing are making sure we have all the right supplies in our hospital to be able to treat these types of emergencies. Our emergencies do carry blood products in the hospital. Sometimes heat stroke dogs will need things like a plasma transfusion, so we do carry those things. We're in the summertime. It is unfortunately snake bite season in Georgia. And so carrying things like anti-venom are something that our ERs do carry and equip ourselves to do. Our emergency doctors only do emergency, and so they do it best. So they're ready to triage patients right away when they come in the door and recognize those life-threatening signs that can be associated with some of these emergencies so that we can intervene quickly. Our model at VEG is very much people and pets first. So we get to a table in the open concept. The doctor can see you right there from the room that you're in with them. They will come over and start to do a triage exam and implement emergency treatments right away if they need to in a critical patient. That's why we have this open concept, so that we can recognize an emergency, treat it quickly. But we also want you to be able to be there with your pet too, because like you said, your pets are family members. You're nervous, they're nervous. We're there to help bridge that gap so that we can be there to help explain to you what's going on, what we're going to do about it, and you don't have to be separated in that time.
Beautiful. Yeah, you guys are the experts. All right, so Dr. Howell, final thoughts. What is one thing that you wish every pet parent knew before the 4th of July?
The biggest thing I would say is preparation is key to making sure that your holiday goes the smoothest possible. I truly think the knowledge that the stress about this holiday to your pets is such a highlighting factor that can allow you to be prepared is probably the main thing I want you to know is your pets are stressed. We're having a good time with each other, our friends, our family, but your pets are stressed by the noise, the heat, the new environment. And so honestly, keeping them protected by keeping them secure and having a backup plan is probably the best thing you can do to be prepared.
All right, well, Dr. Howell, thank you so much for these tips, especially making time for us while you do gear up into what's going to become one of your busiest weekends. If you guys out there streaming with us would like to learn a little bit more about VEG ER, you can head to our website as well as our app. We'll have an article ready there for you with some more information and some more tips for how you can take care of your fur baby ahead of the celebrations. Thank you guys. Let's get you a quick break.